Ben Schachter. Dude, you have no idea how grateful I am for your time, given the fact that I understand you're a very, very busy guy. Everybody knows me from the real estate perspective of my move into South Florida, which was an expansion plan of the company, of my family, of my entire life. And I literally had to go through kissing a lot of frogs before you and I had several meetings and decided that there's something here that we can grow. Now, Ben, you're the president and CEO of the Signature group of companies. So it's a wide umbrella. You want kind of like telling me a little bit about it and an intro into yourself so the rest of the world can hear it?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me on your broadcast here for the podcast. Very excited to be a part of it.
My pleasure.
And while I've done this before, never in this particular format where I've had the opportunity to have a conversation with someone that's part of my company. Most of the conversations are folks outside my company. So it's a great privilege to be with you here. Ben Schachter, Signature Real Estate Company CEO. What does that mean? Well, that just means I have a lot of weight of the world on my shoulders every single day. The Signature Real Estate Companies is a large conglomerate headquartered here in Boca Raton of more than 18 different standalone real estate companies, plus a whole host of affiliated subsidiaries. Our company, Signature Real Estate, has a couple of luxury divisions, Signature International Premier Properties, Signature One Luxury Estates, some middle tier brokerages, Signature International Real Estate, Signature Paradise Realty International. And then we have some specialty community real estate where we actually open up offices inside of the guard gates of a number of local communities, or people are familiar with our country club locations, which are very, very popular as well. Signature is oftentimes correlated to companies like Marriott International. There's one back-end reservation system. There's one back-end corporate office. There's one ticker symbol on the stock exchange. But Marriott has dozens of different brands. And whether you're staying in a Ritz-Carlton for $800 a night, whether you're staying in a JW Marriott for $700 a night, whether you're staying in a Renaissance for $600 a night, a Marriott for $500 a night, a Courtyard Inns and Suites for $400 a night, Spring Hill Suites, Fairfield Garden Inn for $19.99. There's different strokes for different folks. And we have found that in real estate, which is hyper localized, customers tend to gravitate towards individuals and companies that specialize. They don't always want to go to just the largest franchise or the largest company because they know they might not have local area expertise to the level that we do. We're extraordinarily sensitive to the local market, to servicing the residents, the investors of the local market, and to servicing the real estate community as a whole in the local market. When we open up outside of South Florida, we even brand ourselves as Signature Real Estate of Central Florida, Signature Southwest Florida over in the Naples side. We have offices outside of the state of Florida in Washington and Idaho, Signature Pacific Northwest Properties.
Wow.
Everything ties into local branding, local market expertise. And that really has done well for us. Funny enough, people even look at the company, The Gap Inc., right? Polo shirts are $30. But if you want the same polo shirt, a little more luxury, you go to Banana Republic, which is the same company, where polo shirts are $50.
Right.
If you're more price conscious, you might wander into Old Navy, which is the same polo shirt, 2 for $20.
Right.
So we follow that model. And we've expanded well beyond real estate over the past 17 years that we've been in business. We've recognized that there's a void in high quality service for the vendors that do business servicing the real estate agents. What does that mean? People who buy houses, they need financing frequently. Signature Choice Mortgage Group. Sometimes they need title insurance. Signature Title Group. Sometimes they need moving and storage to bring their merchandise and their belongings to their new home or pack up and move. Signature Moving and Storage. There's absolutely nothing we don't do in the home ownership space, insurance, title insurance, home warranty, construction. We even get granular Signature swimming pools. We will drop off your chemicals. We'll scoop out the dead frogs. We'll scoop out the leaves. We'll change your filters. We'll make sure your water is properly pH balanced. It is as full service can be. But we've recognized the best way to do that is by having the best people. So that kind of forays back over to you, Ronan, because we're very conscious if we bring into our organization, because it's a commoditized industry. You could buy the same house from anybody. We all have access to the MLS, whether it's local or international. So what makes a difference? It's the entrepreneurial skills, it's the sechel, it's the branding, it's the interpersonal play between personalities, it's the communication style, and it's the local wherewithal to really shine as an individual to earn the business of your customers. And that's really where we separate ourselves, the people.
Absolutely. And it is that brand of granular support, which is why I thought that we would be an amazing fit. So I have interviewed and talked to multiple companies within South Florida, and they're all kind of singing the same tune. The major differentiating point where we decided to work together and you thought that we can really grow something is your ability to understand that we have at least through the real estate team in Canada and the client base, we have a somewhat specific need. I have a very common conversation that I have with a lot of clients, and it's usually, well, we want something, but we don't want to have to go there all the time yet. We're not ready. We want something that in the future we'll have to be able to use it as a destination, snowbird sort of destination, or they'll say they want an escape hatch in case the same sort of lockdown nonsense happens. But people are afraid of the market. They're afraid of not being able to properly manage it. They are also afraid of the multiple horror stories that they hear of some of the realtors, the way things have been conducted over the last couple of years, which are not an accurate reflection of the whole. But the 80-20 rule, I think, certainly applies to realtors, maybe even, smaller, more of like a 90-10.
90-10, yes.
Where there's a lack of professionalism because everybody has a real estate license. I cannot tell you how many deals I've sent to never the same realtor twice because of the feedback that I have received from the clients that are great clients. And I've interviewed these realtors. I've sent probably 20 plus deals down south and before I decided to expand my team here. And it was, they're not picking up the phone, or they didn't know what they were talking about. They weren't subject matter experts. And in South Florida, it's a lot more nuanced. So many different communities, and you mentioned Signature is in a couple of them, and everybody has a different need. But overall, what they lack is that support and being able to work with you guys and have access to people that are subject matter experts. Because if it's well out of my scope, I will get the right person for that client base so they can get service properly, who understands the 55 and over community, who understands the waterfront community, who understands the country club lifestyle, right? And everybody can't be everything to everyone. It's just not humanly possible. And as an individual, you'll generally gravitate towards a client base that has similar needs, and you'll become really good at that. And not everybody has the same sort of requirement. So, the fact that you were willing to say, look, I can provide you with all these people that are subject matter experts is one of the reasons that we're here. I think that the South Florida real estate market is grossly undervalued, specifically in Palm Beach County. And the shift towards just coming down here to retire is immense. Like, there is a wave of people that want to own real estate here for a variety of different reasons. And I think that this is probably the best market to start buying in now, because even though like the COVID wave is done, while the rest of the country, Canada and the United States has seen a nosedive, prices have held up here, but it's normal. You can now negotiate. You can pick what you want, as opposed to show me how much cash you have and there'll be 20 offers on this property and it's yours. And if it's the highest bidder, and there's a whole process that goes behind that. And if you're not a good realtor and you don't know how to handle that sort of transaction, it can really cost your buyers or sellers a lot of money. But having a team around you that can support that and is why we're here today. What do you think is the trend in South Florida? Like, where do you see the market a year, 3, 5 years from now?
It's going to keep moving up. It's not going to come down as some people are predicting. A lot of reasons. First of all, the demand continues to be strong. We have more to offer in Florida than any other state in the country, and perhaps more than any other market in the world. Here we have no state income taxes. We have spectacular weather. We have a thriving economy. We have world-class universities. We have national championship sports teams. We have all types of culture. We continue to be the gateway to South America. And while that gateway shut during COVID, that gateway is wide back open once again. The Canadians that come to South Florida intentionally skip over 49 other states to fly all the way here. They pass every single store along the way, and they come here. Why? Because the Gulf, because the beaches, because of the climate, because of the tremendous influence, particularly even of the French Canadian market. We have markets here in South Florida that are particularly popular amongst the French Canadians, where there's French bakeries, there's French stores, there's French restaurants, there's even some of the banks that you have in Canada that have opened up branches here in South Florida. But most importantly, the way that Florida dealt with COVID, different from most of the other country, has made it really, really keen for buyers. People never expected the type of shutdown nationwide that occurred during COVID. No one ever thought that was possible in the United States. But as history has proven, it is possible, and it was done, and it wiped out businesses. Just this past weekend, I was up north in Chicago, and a city that I had visited 10 years ago that was thriving and bustling and incredible. I can't tell you how depressing I found it to be when I was up there for a family function, wonderful family function. The family portion was great, but the economics, the lack of business, the lack of industry, the number of jobs that have been lost, the number of people that have moved out, the depressed home values, and that's all a reflection of what's gone on in our economy post-COVID, during COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Florida doesn't have that issue. We're starting to see a tech bubble here. There is Silicon Valley in California. There's part of Silicon Manhattan, Silicon New York, and now we're starting to see a little bit of Silicon Beach start to grow here in South Florida.
And where is that?
Mostly in Miami, right. Mostly. We see hedge funds moving here. Citadel is moving here from New York. Thousands of jobs. Billions and billions and billions of dollars of businesses are relocating here because with technology now, all of these folks that thought they had to live in Manhattan and they had to work in the financial district, they can work from anywhere. We see people coming here, the tax savings alone pay for their entire lifestyle, let alone the fact that it's just a more enjoyable life here. We don't have to deal with all the hustle bustle of the mass transportation, of subway systems and trains and so on and so forth. It's much more comfortable. We have a high-speed rail system that's already open and operational, Brightline, which has been very, very, very popular. The Seminole Indians have done a great job with their gambling and casino privileges to attract would-be Las Vegas and would-be Atlantic City tourists.
Do you really think that that's going to be a business that flourishes here, like the gambling?
So it's already flourishing. The question is whether or not there's a changeover in our legislature that expands gambling beyond just the Seminole lands and opens it up to the rest of Florida. That remains to be seen. But if the Seminoles keep doing just what they're doing a wonderful job with marketing to bring people here. Very, very, very big dollars of people in the gaming industry coming to South Florida versus Las Vegas, and certainly versus Nevada. So they're doing so many wonderful things here. Obviously, we saw from the recent election that just occurred back in November, there was a massive, massive, massive support for our current governor. He won by close to 70% of the vote.
Yeah. And then when he originally ran, he just kind of like won by a hair.
Squeaked by.
Yeah.
Squeaked by.
I know. What a genius move he pulled off while everybody was shutting down. He said, no. He saw an opportunity here and changed the type and quality of people that I never even thought about Florida. I wasn't one of these kids that had, parents who had a location there and stuff like that. All I knew about Florida, specifically living in Boca Raton, was you came here to retire, right? Like I understood Florida was Century Village, right? That's the only place that I knew. It's absolutely wrong. And the kind of people that are moving down are going to establish roots for their kids and their future as well. And that's going to come alongside with work. And you're talking about a tech and financial growth here. And I absolutely see it. I think that it's grossly undervalued. I came from a place in the Greater Toronto area called Thornhill, which is just north of Toronto. And that and the demographic shift and the growth of that area largely stemmed from Toronto being a little bit too expensive. People commuting, the commuting became easier to go downtown for work. And it was grossly undervalued for so long that people just started realizing, wait, there's tons of opportunity. And although Boca and a couple of these communities are somewhat pricey, they are still significantly reduced from a real estate perspective from the locations they're coming from. Like my team's doing deals right now in Thornhill, and townhouses, 3-bedroom townhouse, 1,400 square feet, $1.5 million, right? And for $1 million now, $1 million here, like you'll get a beautiful house, likely in a gated community. If there's other lifestyle choices, if you golf, if you like all that stuff, there's tons. Like, within that $1 million to $2 million range, there's even more opportunities. And obviously sky's the limit, intercoastal, beachfront properties, condos, and all that stuff. It's here. But if you choose to buy something that you may not want to, vacation here. And I think my brother would be a perfect example of that. And there's a demographic of people just like him looking for the same thing. He's like, look, I have older kids. I want to travel the world, but I certainly want to have a place in Florida now. And the reason now is because eventually he knows 5-10 years from now, him and my sister-in-law are going to want a place here. They don't want to pay 5 to 10 year prices. They want to do it now. So I told him it's perfect. We have an in-the-box solution. At Signature and the real estate team, Fishman Nicosia real estate team. What we can do is buy it now, pick the times. We'll get a building that's either Airbnb friendly or rental friendly. You lock in your mortgage rates for 30 years. The rental rates are through the roof right now. Like it'll more than positive cash flow, even with the high rates, even with the insurance costs that are higher here compared to other places in Canada. Property taxes are higher here. Even with that, you buy a place now, you choose to pick a month that you want to be here or not. We rent it out for you. We property manage it for you. We make sure that the place is tidy and clean, and it's just a cash cow for you. And you just leave it there, leave it there, leave it there. If you don't pull any money back, you leave it all here. You have spending cash when you touch down. And when you are ready to make this snowbird transition or be here a little bit more often than you're used to, well, guess what? You got just time value of money working towards you. Come up with a down payment. We have the resources to get you approved. You don't need these stupid numbers that I used to hear. Oh, you got to have 50% down in order to buy, which is absolutely asinine. And that's what people were telling me. And the listeners here are thinking the same thing. So the podcast is supposed to be a resource to anybody that needs it to understand, the lay of the land. A common theme, and you touched on it as well, is that how much opportunity and growth and potential there is here. And people just don't understand it. And I think that correlating to the real estate values, it's so undervalued at the moment that if you're sitting on the fence, this is like probably the best buy opportunity that you're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years in South Florida, especially when it comes to the rental rates. It's crazy. Like properties that will cost and carrying costs at, the inflated interest rates and only 25% will probably yield you a cash on cash return of like 20-30%, and I'm talking about all after expenses when it's all said and done. And people don't get that. And our job is to try to get it out there. But what is certainly lacking is the professional realtor because of how many people are hobbyists, right? I've noticed that in my experiences. And you guys are very choosy and very careful in who you decide to hitch your wagon to and vice versa, because you spend so much time and money and effort in supporting and training your realtors, which is unfortunately lacking. And I know this because I have spoken to a number of companies before we decided to sign on the dotted line. And I used to run a brokerage. I know what it's like. I know, what brokerages do. And if I'm going to be just one of these people that signs on, pays their fees and don't get any nuanced training, well, I'm going to do an injustice to my client base. And reputation is everything in this business. And I'd argue even in your life, it takes years to develop and build. It takes seconds to kill it. Because if your client can't point to you and say, I had a really good experience with that person and they stuck with me in true, and especially a market that they're not familiar with, your business is essentially dead, right? You're a transplant to South Florida.
I am.
How long ago did you move down?
I moved down here 29 and a half years ago. knocking on the door in 30 years. I want to go back just a second, though, with respect to your comments about this nuanced training. There's more at Signature than just nuanced training that separates the caliber of the agents we select. We look for three things when we pick people to join our organization, and we don't just hire any Tom, Dick, or Harry. First thing we look for is intelligence. There's more unintelligent people in the real estate industry than anywhere because most of them are lazy and complacent. They Google search, what's a quick job to be self-employed, and pops up 1 through 10 on Google, become a real estate agent. We want smart people. We want professional people, people that behave like a business person. They show up on time. They dress the part. They're fully knowledgeable and versed in whatever the subject is that they're speaking on. They are good at prospecting. They're good at follow-up. They have to be excellent at customer service. To find a true professional in real estate, because so many are hobbyists, using your word, challenging. And the last thing we look for is we want someone who has a fire to succeed. Because the failure rate, unfortunately, nationwide here in the US is in excess of 70%. Most real estate agents do not succeed in this business.
Right.
We want people who are hungry and driven. If you're just looking to hang your real estate license because you're married to someone who's affluent and you say, hey, look, this will keep me out of the shopping malls if I hang a license, and I tell my spouse, oh, I'm very busy in real estate. Where's your paycheck? What have you done today? Where are your accomplishments? Where are your milestones? What are your results? So intelligence, professionalism, and a real hunger drive for success. And I learned that from my roots. You asked where I'm from, originally from New York City, born and raised. The world back then in the 70s and 80s, you could shake someone's hand and say, we have a deal. Here, now, 2023 on planet Earth, purchase contracts, listing agreements, leases are dozens of pages long because people have a tough time of sticking by their word. I like the good old days of shaking hands and say, we have a deal. That was nice. And I like to reflect back on that because I try to teach that level of ethics and morals to my sales team members. Sure. And when they put something together, you stick by it. We're not here to undo business. We're here to create opportunities for people, help them to achieve success, and then see it through. You mentioned about the great returns. What a lot of people forget here in South Florida is when you look on a return for your investment, obviously it's a financial decision. You could buy stocks, you could buy bonds, you could buy gold, you could buy real estate. There's lots of things to invest your money in. But here in South Florida, we have something everybody wants. It's not just the return, it's also the lifestyle. So for those investors that want a vacation here, 2 weeks at Christmas time and 2 weeks at spring break and 2 weeks over the summer, that alone is worth immeasurable amounts of money, that their investment is something they enjoy. I buy gold because I hope it goes up. I buy a stock. It's because I hope it goes up. Quite frankly, I don't care what the business does, what they sell, what their product is. I want it to go up. I want to make money. But when I can enjoy my investment as well and take advantage of it, make memories with my family, have a little fun, maybe decompress from whatever high stress lifestyle I'm living elsewhere, that's a totally different type of an investment that's not only profitable and rewarding and feels great in your pocketbook, but it feels great in your mind. It feels great in your soul because you're enjoying yourself. Not a lot of investments, you can go get a tan. Here in South Florida, you can make an investment and come back with a tan. Not a lot of investments, you can, go out and feel a sense of relaxation after you've enjoyed your investment. Here in South Florida, you can do that. And we are the destination for 99% of the world. They come here. Everybody wants to visit New York City. Most don't want to own real estate there. A lot of people want to check out and see what LA and California is like. But everybody has Florida in their top 3. Sure. They all have it here. We haven't even touched on the entertainment side of Central Florida, where we also have full-scale operations for Signature. The number of Europeans that come to the Orlando area and want a bit of Mickey Mouse, and we sell them properties, which then we will support through Airbnb style property management when they're not here, is unbelievable because they'll come with big families on these long-term 30-day vacations and they'll drop $25,000, $35,000, $45,000 in a month on hotel rooms for their family because they're coming with like a family of 10 or 12. The grandparents are coming, the kids are coming, the in-laws are coming, and they come for these long-term breaks. Why not buy something and let us manage it the other 11 and a half months a year when you're not using it? So there's tremendous value in what we provide here in terms of lifestyle, the benefits to your longevity, the benefits to your mind, the benefits to your pocketbook as well with the great rates of return. It's a very, very special industry, and I wouldn't want to do real estate anywhere else. And I own real estate offices in other states. I would not want to produce real estate anywhere but Florida. The opportunity here is better than ever. It's
incredible that the way you articulated through your experience, because that's the message I'm trying to get across to a lot of people. And there are a lot of people out there misrepresenting the way real estate needs to be purchased there because they're not doing it the right way. They're not explaining it correctly. They're not offering a full solution of property management. They're not talking about, to people from Canada, even New York, lawyers close deals, here title close deals. There's so many different nuanced things that you need to know and understand. And if you don't have like the soldiers on the ground that have an understanding, you can get into some trouble. I know I did. I can talk to my specific example. But it goes right back to the original point of what you talked about in the realtor that you're going to hire. Before I signed on with you guys, I went through 4 interviews. I went through 2 with Farah and then yourself as well. And I explained my history and my approach to real estate. And I've been around since licensed since 2004. I've also ran a brokerage, and I know the difference when somebody just wants to sign you up as just another, realtor who's going to take up a chair and pay the fees versus someone who you're going to build a business with. And the only way to build a business with somebody is when you essentially become a partner and you invest in them, and then they go out and execute on the things that they say they're going to do and they need to do. There's a huge difference in realtors. There's professional career realtors, and then there's everybody else. And unfortunately, there isn't enough of one and there's too many of the other, and you can guess which is which. And often those people that shouldn't have a real estate license, why they do deals is because of commission cutting. And I always have this conversation with people about, in life, you get what you pay for, period. Right? There's Rolls Royces and Bentleys, and then there's Kias and Hondas. They both do the exact same thing, but there is a reason people pay one versus the other, right? And what people don't understand is that almost for like a fraction of the price they would pay for the commission, the amount of value they would get in professionalism is exponential, and they're looking at it the wrong way. Canadians are an incredible resource for a place like Florida to have because they're kind, they're friendly.
They speak English.
There's certainly, that makes a difference for sure. Because the further south you head, and Spanish is almost a must. And that's the beauty of the cultural.
And we love when all the South Americans come to the Miami area because we're set up for it. We have Spanish street signs. We have Spanish menus and restaurants.
I didn't know that.
Spanish signage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We have all types of Spanish-speaking public officials. Every police officer, every fireman, every teacher speaks Spanish. That's ideal. It's difficult to transact business at a high level when you have trouble communicating with your audience. So whether someone is coming from Quebec and they need someone who speaks French, of course we can help them. If they want to go down to Miami, they need someone in Spanish, we can do that. Our company speaks 46 different languages fluently by native tongue. Russian, Ukrainian, Japanese, Chinese.
Wow.
For every single dialect of Spanish, Swedish, Italian, you name it, we speak it because we are the attraction point for people from all over the world. It makes it very, very appealing that we can help them in their native tongue. A very, very, very convenient. It's a one-stop shop where we have the financing available, we have the moving services available, but most importantly, we have the product knowledge available. There's a lot of off-market transactions that don't even make it to the MLS. People sometimes look for investments, and you always hear the adage, I've got money to spend. If you have a good deal, think of me. And I always tell my customers when they say that right off the bat, if I'm offering it to you, it's because it's not good enough of a deal for me to buy it. Because if it was such a great deal, I'd be buying it myself. So let's put everything in perspective. It's a great deal. Is it the best deal on earth? Probably not, because obviously for off-market transactions, anything that comes the way of an investor from an off-market transaction, we have to have our fingers on the pulse of those opportunities and present them to our customers. Obviously, we have repeat customers that buy investment properties with us all the time. We're always going to go back to them first. And then we build long-term relationships to find more and more and more attractive deals that have better rates of return, better opportunities. In real estate, Ronan, you make your money on the buy. If you buy right, you will always do well. You have to make your money on the purchase. So it's very, very important that you not only find the right acquisition property, but you have one heck of a negotiator, right?
Sure.
And there's ways to structure, not just with financing versus cash, but there's ways to structure contingencies or lack thereof. There's ways to structure bigger deposits. There are ways to structure shorter closings, shorter inspections. There's ways to sweeten the pot to a seller to help your buyer, through our training and education and support, get the best possible deal. And that's where the money is made. If you buy right, you'll always do well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's always like that. And most realtors, unfortunately, have become transactional. And a lot of people got their license during the peak of COVID where they have no idea what it's like to negotiate. It was just bring me the highest offer, right? But it's the support that was lacking in the form of information. I was in the situation where I was part of multiple offers and I had to present that I had enough liquid cash to be able to even view the property at the time. And I wasn't even on the ground here. The realtors went to go check it out. And I now know that if you are in a multiple offer situation and you are legally obligated to see the bid you are beating, right? The way the agent that I had handled it and versus the agent that sold the property handled it, and he was seasoned and knew exactly what he was doing, and I had no fault. I have no faults towards him because he did the right thing for himself. Instead of my agent telling me, no, we'll just put in an escalation clause and the contingency and we'll be able to see the right offer. They said, just put in this number because that's what he said. And obviously I won the house, but I don't know how much I beat the other offer by, and I didn't know. And when I called out my agent on that after the fact, only after I learned it, they said, well, you went behind my back and talked to the person directly. And I figured, look, this is not worth the argument because I love the house. I like the location. I would have bought it anyways. I just wanted to make sure that I got fair market value. So the nuances in the negotiations and the approach and the contingencies, that comes with training and that comes with experience and that comes with understanding the market versus just being transactional. I'll never work with that individual again, never refer them any business again. And the overwhelming majority of my business is purely referral. Right. And it's lovely to have that. And it speaks volumes to the way things are being done here. But if you don't have support from your brokerage and you don't have anyone to turn to when you're not sure about something, then you as a realtor are just flying by the seat of your pants. And at the end, your client is going to be the one who's going to bear the brunt of your mistakes. And that's absolutely unacceptable when you carry a real estate license because we all get painted with the same brush. And this is not a hobby. This is a career. This is an important designation to hold done the right way. And it is an incredible opportunity for people willing to play the long game. What I mean long game is 1 to 3 years. I mean, you could buy a stock and have liquidity and it can go up and down and you just kind of sit there and people are okay with whether it goes up or down because, well, hell, that's just the stock market. But when it comes to real estate, people expect that they bought it at the lowest price and the next year is going to be worth that much more because that's been the trend. Now, I tell people all the time, if you're buying a home, it's a lifestyle choice. It's not an investment. Right? It's a decision that you made and you could have bought probably the same property, identical property in a different jurisdiction, would have cost you half, but you chose to pay for that. Your second, your third, your fourth. Now those are investment properties. It's a little more critical and cash flow is the most important thing. And that's what's going to be paying down your mortgage. And obviously if you buy in a good location, there's obviously upside. It's not going to happen within a year. It might not happen within 2. But I'm pretty confident to say that 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line, not only are you paying down your mortgage or somebody else is doing it for you, you're also looking at an asset class that will very likely appreciate and move along with inflation and then some. And right now, the opportunity that I see in South Florida is unprecedented because people don't understand the volume and quality of people moving down here. They hear about it and there are groups like with 50, 60,000 group Facebook groups of people just trying to understand the landscape of investment here and how to do it right. And that's what we're here to do and establish a platform for people that can reach out to us and they'll have the comfort level that we can do this for them and we can do it right and we can give them an in-the-box solution from financing to property management to constant support, rentals, etc. And that's what's lacking because so many people are transactional over the last couple of years. You saw the market like erupt. Yes. Absolutely. Right.
Like nothing I'd seen in my 30 years in the business.
Right. Was there a commonality in the type of people that were buying, like demographically in South Florida?
I don't know if there was a commonality of the demographic, but the general makeup of most of the buyers during the peak of COVID, most of them were either employees or business owners, employees that were given the latitude by their employers to work remotely, or business owners that could pick up their companies and relocate. Most of them were families. Most of them had children, the ones that we saw. Now, of course, we had outliers. We had some college kids come here and we had senior citizens come here, yes. But most of them were families with children who were sick and tired of the lockdown. They were sick and tired of remote learning. They were sick and tired of sending their children to school with a mask on or preventing them from going to social functions with their friends. I was dealing with families who had children 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Their child hadn't been to a birthday party in 2 years.
Right.
And those are the people that said, enough. This is not how my children are going to remember their childhood.
I'm one of those people.
Without question. Sports, I understand your family's all into hockey. Well, the hockey we have in Florida here is indoors. But if places are closed and shut down, the sport's gone.
Sure.
There is no outdoor hockey. It's not an option. It's not seasonal.
I had to sneak my son in, a 4-year-old kid at the time, fully dressed under the guise of filming a commercial or something or other. And that's a 4-year-old going without his dad, fully dressed, drop him off. I had a 1-minute window. There was done like a speakeasy. Go in, skate. 2 hours later, I'd come back. And let me tell you how devastating it was, because he's 4 years old. He's there with a bunch of other kids. He knows the coaches. I wouldn't have just thrown him to the wolves, but he had to pee. So he peed inside his gear because I wasn't there to take him to the bathroom. Right. I was livid about that. Emails from my daughter's gymnastic instructor that unless you are proven to be fully vaccinated, you can't do gymnastics. So you're taking away rights from, first of all, kids were not even threatened. And I don't want to get into a COVID debate because honestly, my blood pressure will rise. And what I believe this cancel culture thing that's going on is people are afraid to speak their minds. You can do that in Florida. In Canada, it's still, somewhat questionable. And there's every time I raise this topic, I mean, my wife says like, yo, cool it a little bit, and I just can't. I can't. And that's who's listening to this. People that want to have an escape hatch next time this happens. And I'm a firm believer that anytime government has any sort of power, they will very rarely relinquish it, and it will rear its ugly head again in another shape or form. I hope it doesn't. I still have family in Canada. I still have businesses in Canada. I still have, money is invested in lands in Canada. Like, Canada is an amazing place. The government, is not my cup of tea. Obviously, I uprooted my entire family to come here for that. You're originally from New York. Do you still have family in New York?
Absolutely. I was at a family wedding a week and a half ago. We have lots of family there.
What's their take on all of what's happened?
It's interesting. They too are disgusted by many things, but certainly there's a level of political divide depending upon people's mindsets.
Sure.
And of course, here in Florida, where things were handled differently, most people, majority, are very much in support of it because they see how Florida has thrived in every single way. What was most interesting, and I see we're going down this COVID conversation, but what was most interesting is when they went back and looked at all the illnesses and the deaths, the percentages of, unfortunately, people who perished, which is tragic, was not all that different from the areas that were on complete lockdown versus the areas that were wide open. There were differences, but not widespread differences. And Florida, of course, is home to lots of seniors. You said yourself, you thought before living here, it was the land of Century Village and retirement. And we had the choice. Our seniors had the choice. Our most vulnerable, immunocompromised neighbors and seniors had the choice. Live or don't live in terms of your lifestyle. I don't mean actually heartbeat.
Sure.
Go out. Be yourself or don't go out. If you go out and you want to mask up and you want to put on a spacesuit, please do so. If you want to stay home and lock yourself in a bubble, that's fine. If you want to run free on the beach, everyone had a choice. And I think that's the fundamental difference, to give people choices. And of course, the criticism always comes from, well, you're putting me in jeopardy. If you feel you're in jeopardy, then your choice is you should stay home and never leave the house. And that's fine. That is what you should do. That is your choice. I don't blame you. You're right. You are in jeopardy, whether it's from a falling crane that, falls on your head from a skyscraper, whether it's from a meteor shower or a car accident, or a building fire. Everyone's at risk of something every single day. You have a choice. Live how you feel is most appropriate for you and your family. And I think that's the big messaging takeaway. Florida did it right. A couple other states did it right. The difference is those other states don't all enjoy 1,000 miles of coastline They don't all enjoy no state income taxes. They don't all enjoy a thriving tech sector. We even have some film businesses moving to this area and doing some.
Is that a recent phenomenon?
Last 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Some film businesses doing some studios. So it's just amazing. I mean, there's nothing that we don't have in Florida. It is a recipe for success. It is a recipe for profitability. It is a recipe for all things that are great. And I challenge someone to find legitimate criticism about anything we're doing here in Florida. If you're looking to come down from Canada and vacation, we're here for you. If you want to invest from Canada, we're here for you. If you want to retire from Canada, we're here for you. But most importantly, we're here for you if you want the freedom of making whatever choices you feel are appropriate for you and your family. And that's probably the biggest messaging takeaway. We spend a lot of time talking about investment property and renting things out and cash on cash return. We even have a thriving market of the flippers, people buying properties that are in need of TLC. They renovate the properties and they turn them around and they sell them too. So some people don't get the long-term payoff, but they get very, very nice short-term returns. Now, I will admit that particular business is not thriving as much right now as it was 4 to 5 years ago, pre-COVID. Why? Because anything that's a good deal is being gobbled up quickly. But that market will come back again. And there's so many opportunities. And whether you're looking for a modest condo, use the term escape hatch, whether you're looking for a single family home, a townhouse, a villa, or if you're one of the very, very financially fortunate ones that can afford one of these $10, $20 million homes right on the ocean, watching the Atlantic Ocean waves crash at your doorsteps every single morning, we have everything for you here. The market is wide open. And quite frankly, for your Canadian buyers that are contemplating coming here, whether it's to invest or whether it's to vacation, they made a wise choice by waiting until now, because during COVID, they were getting outbid left and right on multiple offer situations. Inventory has increased. While sellers have not dropped their prices, they're more negotiable now than they were 12 to 18 months ago. So I would argue that there's never been a better time to buy in Florida than now, because inventory is up, negotiability is actually back on the table, and our thriving economy and our thriving culture and our thriving technology, film, business sectors are all booming. And we invite you to come join us here.
Did you find that any of your family or sphere of influence within New York bought in Florida during this COVID nonsense?
Absolutely. I have a list of them. Most of them, I would say, of my closest, let's say 30 relatives, 2/3 have acquired property during COVID during that time. Some were able to relocate, whether they were already retired or whether they had a business that was mobile and could be relocated, or they just wanted to have a place to come down on vacation and get away from it all. They were here. I mean, we see the number of politicians that left New York and came here. And these are the political ones that are stomping their feet up and down the street, locking down New York. And they were coming here to vacation. And they were very different in their personalities when they were here on vacation versus when they were back home up in New York.
It's funny you should say that, because I one of my flights back here right after going through the home inspection here, I don't want to mention who he is because he's a very prominent politician, but in Toronto, but he's talking about masking and what's it called? Physical distancing or whatever. Social distancing and all this stuff, and don't get any haircuts and stuff like that. And I see him in Fort Lauderdale airport without a mask or anything like that. But yeah, that's okay. And that's the kind of hypocrisy that drove us down here. But what pushed us over the edge was, there are a number of things, but when kids started becoming, the topic of choice on the table, where it just instinctively didn't make any sense. And a lot of Canadians, I believe, that's when they really started pushing back, right? When it started coming down to them. And whatever your perspective is on COVID, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm vaccinated. It's choice, and you hit that, and that's exactly what it is. I hope that it stays that way as government shifts, as things shift. And I don't think this will be the last of something that we will see. But I do look at this as a grossly undervalued location, specifically on the real estate front. And I think a lot of people are not just buying investments here. People are moving here to live here, establish families, schools. The schools are like 10 to 1 in forms of seats to applications. And if that doesn't tell you the growth, right? Because families that are coming down here and have young kids or want to establish better communities, safety, most people, I think, want their kids to stick around them as they get older. And the only way to do that is to give them opportunities.
They're expanding schools all over Palm Beach County. there's 4 or 5 major schools, both elementary, middle, and high school, that are under construction right now, all opening up in the fall. Obviously, building a school is a long-term project. There's budgeting, then there's the actual construction period. But there's so many schools under construction. There's several more on the planning board with the school board. We've got great private schools down here as well, both elementary, middle, high school, and of course the universities. Lots of educational opportunities here. And if you're a senior and you want to take advantage of the community colleges and some of the local universities just to further your knowledge and expand your cultural horizons, there's great opportunities there as well. We didn't touch too much on commercial, but I will say that with the growth of all these incoming finance companies and hedge fund companies and electronic companies that are coming out of the New York area, and several from California, by the way, as well. Michael Dell from Dell Computers, they bought the Boca Raton Resort and put $250 million into renovations after buying it for over $1 billion.
Wow.
Because they want their money here as well. Commercial is a booming sector in South Florida. Vacancy rates are very, 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 very high. Excuse me, I beg your pardon, occupancy rates, beg your pardon, are very high. Vacancy rates are very low. It's tough to find a good office down here because there's so many businesses that have relocated here. Even people that say remote work. A lot of the companies now in this post-COVID generation, they're ready to put their staff back to work. They want them in the office. And we've been selling office buildings. We've been leasing lots of space, 5, 10, 15-year leases long-term. So it's challenging at times to even find office space, which is why you're seeing some new office projects come online. Lots of mixed use in our downtown revitalized areas, downtown Boca Raton, downtown Boynton Beach, downtown Delray, of course, the leader in the market. So lots of great opportunities.
Ben, I'm excited. This is like, I guess, a formal, informal announcement of my expansion with you guys. I'm grateful for your time. You know, the people that I always have in the chair sitting across from me are at the top of their game, and I'm always grateful that they can take some time to come and talk to me and provide a resource to people out there. I'm myself, you know, somewhat nervous because an expansion plan is somewhat ambitious, but knowing the resources that I have at my disposal and my own abilities and my fire, this is going to be great. And thank you again for your time. And I look forward to hopefully have you as a recap in a year from now, just so we can talk about, you know, the growth and what's come along the whole time.
Ronan, I'm counting in a year from now, we're going to talk about your top 50 closings of the year, your top 50 transactions. That'll be the recap. It's a great privilege to be here. I'm flattered you invited me. I'm glad that your listeners are hopefully taking some great value from our conversation. And I'd love to be invited back whenever the opportunity presents itself. So thank you for having me.
Amazing, man. Take it easy.